in 2 years from now, are people even using Google? Are people then are all just moving to ChatGPT and like all of our advertising is housed in there? Who knows?
By the way, that's not a crazy take at all. I mean, that is like absolutely being discussed right now. What will Google do when people can just go into Gemini or Copilot or what it's Claude and just get the answers rather than getting links, right?
Yeah.
Welcome to Thrive, a Paychex business podcast, your blueprint for navigating everything from people to policies to profits. And now your host, Gene Marks.
Hey everybody, it's Gene Marks and welcome back to another episode of the Paychex Thrive podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. This conversation is going to be all about YouTube marketing, how to improve your YouTube marketing, how to get into it, how to leverage YouTube to expand or hopefully promote your business as well, how to generate more content for your business that can hopefully be overall engagement for your customers. And I'm speaking with Carly Scott. Carly is manager of client services at a company called Logical Position. She is also a massive Lord of the Rings fan. And everybody, if you're watching this on YouTube, that is a map of Middle Earth. Behind Carly there, we have the ultimate. We have a geek on the phone. I just want to say, Carly, don't take that the wrong way, but you're the exact person I want to talk to when it comes to YouTube marketing. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. And yes, got my Lord of the Rings map back here. Fun fact, my husband actually built the frame. So yeah.
All right.
It just keeps getting
we could go off on a tangent about Lord of the Rings. Not on this podcast, but maybe on on another side conversation, because it is I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan itself. But first of all, let's talk a little bit about the company. Yes. So Logical Position, tell me a bit about the business. Where are you guys located? What do you guys do? And what do you do at Logical Position?
Yeah, so Logical Position is a digital advertising agency. We are about 15 years old, actually. I think 15 years on the dot, which sounds fairly young, but, we originated in Oregon. This is where our headquarters are. We're in the Portland, Oregon area. We work with businesses anywhere from, small mom and pop shops to big $1 million a month in ad spend businesses. So I've seen it all, seen any types of businesses under the sun. Baby clothes, ergonomic pillows, instruments, you name it. We've seen pretty much any business that exists. And what I personally do, I work with our account managers to make sure that, one, they have the most cutting edge information to do their jobs well, because let's be honest, the digital advertising world is constantly changing and evolving, and it's kind of complicated. So the continuing education piece is a huge passion project of mine in this job and in my career. And then the other thing that is a huge passion project of mine is the YouTube arm. And one of the things that I'm currently working on with some of my counterparts is developing, more when it comes to tapping into AI products and whatnot for creative strategies like VO3 and whatnot. So that's a little bit about me.
That's great. No, I like that. A little bit of a tangent here, and you mentioned VO3. VO3 is Google's, digital image and digital video creation. Like Sora from OpenAI, and and there are many of them that are out there. Mm-hmm. Give me your thoughts on. I'm kind of curious what your experience has been with VO, and the reason why I'm asking you this question though, Carly, is I just straight image creation, like not even video. I wrote a piece I write for Forbes like 6 to 8 times a month, and I cover AI and technology. And I'm a business owner, and I've been frustrated with video and image creation tools. I think they're amazing. I mean, God, compared to where we were, just a couple of years ago. And I think it's amazing that you can put in a prompt to say, create a video of a dinosaur walking through a snowy plain, that kind of, and it does. My frustration is as a business owner is whenever I work with these image creators or video creators, I still can't get them to be like exactly what I need them to be. They get close, but not close enough. So give me your thought before we get into even YouTube marketing. And this is a part of it, by the way. Give me your thoughts. Like any warnings that you have for business owners about these tools?
Yes. I think a lot of the times up until this point, I think a lot of people have been fearful of AI tools for video and content creation because they're thinking, oh no, this is going to replace the human element. And I think the more we've gotten into these tools developing, especially things like VO3 and text to image or text to video tools, I think we're all very quickly realizing that the tool is only as good as the prompter. And it really drills down to whether or not that these tools are going to make it easy to push out content for small businesses. Because I really am excited and pretty bought into the AI world. I think it's going to help small businesses, especially, be able to come to the forefront a bit more when it comes to churning and putting out more creative more consistently. But the creative strategist role and the overall creative strategy element is still so crucial and important. And if you don't have that understanding of what resonates well creative wise, how to utilize tools like VO3 and any AI tools, then it's not going to be successful. And it really is just that. VO3 is just another tool. And even though we have seen a lot better success with the videos coming out from it, we're actually trying to develop that as a core product at Logical Position. But it is taking time because, to your point, the prompting piece, it actually sometimes responds better to more coding language than even natural language.
Yes.
So it's
Right.
very interesting. It's still changing, and it's really going to come and boil down to, does your prompter truly understand creative and truly understand how to utilize these tools?
I love your response. So first of all, some of the takeaways I take from that is that humans are almost more important than ever when using
Yes.
these tools. It can certainly make them more productive and also more affordable.
Yeah.
I mean, in the end, to create some of these videos, if we didn't have these tools, I mean, how are we possibly going to create a video of a dinosaur walking through,
Yeah.
a snowy mountainside? I mean, so that's amazing stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's pretty technical.
Yeah.
I mean, it's about the prompt, and that is like both art and science, right?
Mhm.
And like you said, sometimes hard coding needs to be done, and that's not something like a typical business. This is where you guys come in, right? I
Yes.
mean, if I'm like, hey, Carly, I really want to have a video that puts my company into this, shows this, or tells this type of a story or whatever, you're the one that comes in and says, all right, here's the story we should tell.
Mhm.
And because of our expertise, we can do the prompting and the coding and the head banging that needs to be done to get these video creations in the end, a result that you like.
Yeah.
Am I saying it correctly?
Absolutely. And I think the thing that you said there is the piece of it becoming cheaper and quicker, right?
Mm.
It's going to help businesses be able to scale the creative arm of their business so much faster. And like, even if you're just using this again as a tool, like, I'm looking at all of these AI pieces as like just part of a puzzle, right? Because you can produce a whole video in VO3. I have. It's okay. They're okay right now. But I actually am envisioning VO3 being more of like a pieces of video to be able to generate more content that you layer in with your video. Just again, if you're missing like UGC content, you can use VO3 to help build that. If you're just missing random, filler content, you can use VO3 to build that content and layer it into your other stuff that you've produced. So again, it all boils down to the fact that you still need to have a very clear understanding of creative and what resonates with your audience, and you need to understand how to use the tools. But the future is so bright from a creative perspective, because this is what people expect to see is beautiful creative. That's how people know a brand now, and it's expected. And if you're not tapping into creative, you are falling behind. And VO3 it's not taking things away from us as creatives. It's giving us more opportunity to expand what we're doing.
I think it's an unbelievable opportunity for firms like yours in your industry, kids in college, art students. There's so many
Yes.
creators out there. They don't have the vehicles. They don't have the money.
Mhm.
They don't have the availability to really, think about how many filmmakers that there are out there, like brilliant people, young people that can really do it. But who's going to give them budget to create a
Right.
film? And yet they've got an amazing story to tell. And ultimately, these tools will enable them to tell their
Yeah.
stories. And that's super exciting.
Yes.
It's just, and again, I don't know if you agree with this or not, but, mean, how can you not? Like, I feel like we're like when cell phones were first introduced and they were these big boxes that people had on the sides of their heads, like it's such an infancy with this that I think yours and mine, generations after us, will look back on 2025 and be like, remember you would put in a command to like create a dinosaur going through and the result, what came out looked like that, like.
I'm still laughing about the era of Will Ferrell eating spaghetti from AI. If you haven't seen those videos, go check it out, because that was just like the epitome of infancy of AI content. But you're so right. Like, honestly, we don't even know what 2 years from now in digital is going to look like. Frankly, like I could even, this is me being a tinfoil hat moment, so just bear with me. But in 2 years from now, are people even using Google? Are people then all just moving to Chat GPT and like all of our advertising is housed in there? Who knows?
By the way, that's not a crazy take at all. I mean, that is like absolutely being discussed right now. What will Google do when people can just go into Gemini or Copilot or what Claude and just get the answers rather than getting links, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's changing so quickly, and like, not tapping into it and not using these tools now and early is a missed opportunity for businesses, in my opinion, because the people who are tapping into these products now and understanding them now when they are still in their infancy are just going to be so ahead of the game. We've seen how quickly AI adoption has increased just this year alone, and how vastly different consumer behaviors are now changing because of it. So now's the time. If you're not tapping into AI capacity in any way within your business, especially when it comes to creatives, then you're gonna be going on an uphill battle over the next few years.
Yeah, let's pivot over to YouTube and that's visual and it's videos, and it really dovetails right into our conversation of using these video tools. And you make me think, Carly, as well, like I have 10 employees in my company. We implement CRM software now. And even though I do this for paychecks, but I my own business that I'm running. And so I'm looking to expand my YouTube channel. We do webinars. First of all, just some of the stuff that you're telling me right now, I'm like, man, I'm thinking like, if I hired a kid and paid him a few $100 a week just to dabble around with VO and to make, some cool, video for me, once or twice a month that's, connected to CRM, and we throw it on our YouTube, who knows what we'll come up with? You know what I mean? Like, who knows what fun stuff we could be that gets attention for my business. You know what I mean?
And also, like, could you create content that you couldn't just produce with your cell phone on there, and cheaply?
Yeah, agreed. And so when you mentioned earlier about how we don't know, like, will we still be Googling in a few years, and where all that's going. I feel the same way about YouTube. Like, I wonder if 5 to 10 years from now, we look at, future YouTube and it looks nothing that it looks like today, because all the videos coming out of it are, just AI enhanced videos. It's a combination of animation and humans and otherworldly creations that businesses are coming up with, using firms like yourself to really develop some eye-catching type of content. And I think we have to keep our minds open for all that stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the YouTube platform very well might look different in, it obviously will. Every single platform will. But like 2-5 years from now, I think the big question is, are we only going to have AI content out there? And like, I really don't think that is going to be the case. We have there is a real issue of AI fatigue in this world when it comes to creatives. And although the products are becoming a lot more sophisticated, a lot more, in tune with real life, I think it's still going to be, like I said, a tool, because, when it comes down to it, we don't just animate everything in this world because we can, right? You could just go about it and do easy animations and whatnot. It's not as challenging to animate things now as it was, 10, 15 years ago. The technology has improved, and same with AI. So I don't think it's going to be something that is everywhere in the same capacity as like the society is talking about it, where it's taking over. I think it's going to be sprinkled into things. And like I said, empowering businesses to have more tools in their tool belt.
I think you're right. I also already I am seeing people getting you mentioned the word fatigued. I see like a little annoyed with AI. I mean, I'm on Instagram, all the time. I don't post on Instagram, but I look at all sorts of funny and great stuff. And like there was a lot of AI generated stuff on Instagram that even Meta and also X on they're flagging and saying this is an AI generated video because as a user, it's just like, oh, come on, man. Like this is, you see a bear dancing with a frog, you know what I mean? Or you see something that seems very realistic. And then you're like, wait a second, what am I looking at? And it just, and I think again, as business owners, we have to keep in mind that if we are going to be creating stuff on our YouTube channels and we want to, use AI, we have to be very cognizant of the fact that our viewers might not want to see as much AI as we think.
100%.
Like you said, it's a tool.
Yes. 100%. I think with anything, it can be overdone. Any type of content can be overdone, and figuring out what your audience, and this is really the whole crux of YouTube, figuring out what content resonates with your audience is really all that YouTube, both organic and paid, boils down to, right? You're not just putting out random content, and it's never going to be, you're not going to go into YouTube and know automatically, oh yes, this is the type of content I need to produce. You're going to need to enter into it by testing and iterating and experimenting with what other people are doing. Look at what other brands are doing and try. And not every single audience that you're targeting, it is even going to resonate with the same types of creatives. So it really does all boil down, and all the way back to even VO3, maybe your audience does really resonate with a lot of AI content for whatever reason, but it might end up being better having it mixed in with other types of content, UGC and whatnot, to scale the creativity of your brand on YouTube, if that makes sense.
That's great. Hey, Carly, so you and I are talking to, and by the way, everybody, this is Carly Scott. She is the manager of client services at Logical Position. And Carly, you and I are talking to a lot of business owners. I guess it's no surprise to you that our audience, has to do a lot when they're running their businesses. And I'm a business owner as well. HR stuff takes up a lot of time of a lot of my clients. And I always wonder why they don't outsource more of it. Most of my clients could really need a breather from all of the details of hiring an employee and doing performance evaluations and, getting health insurance and, calculating tax deductions and all of that. Paychex can actually take care of things like that to get you back to what you love and what you ventured out first in the first place for why you're running your business. So if you want to get some help in relieving yourself of some of your outsourced HR stuff so that you can get back to focusing on your business, see how you can get help from Paychex. Go to paychex.com/meet Paychex. That's paychex.com/MEET PAYCHEX. Or there will be a link to that in our show notes. Carly, we're talking about business owners and we're talking about using AI to enhance our videos on YouTube. This is a YouTube conversation. So, again, I mentioned my business. I have 10 people. We have a YouTube channel. I want to increase views and subscribers on my videos. Okay. And I'm going to tell you specifically, my videos, we sell CRM software. So we do webinars, like once a month. And then I have a woman, a marketing woman who sort of chops up my webinars into, smaller bits. And then every month we post the full webinar on YouTube. And then we also post smaller bits like shorts, on it as well onto our YouTube channel. So first of all, I want to say, Carl, like I don't use a marketing firm, a firm like Logical Position, although I probably should, but this is the kind of value that you guys bring to your clients. And this is, there's a cost involved. So if I know that, so because I'm paying somebody to do this, but I want more views and I want more subscribers for these posts that I'm doing on YouTube. What do I do?
Yeah, I'd say what you're doing right now from an organic perspective, that is the foundation. And every business should start by building their organic presence and really diversifying when it comes to the types of content they're creating, which you just mentioned, you're doing some long form, you're doing short form, you're splicing it up a bit. Fantastic foundation. So if from here, the goal is to grow the channel, grow the business, grow the leads that you're looking for, that's where paid comes into the mix, paid ads. So obviously, as you mentioned, this is the piece where it's costing some extra money. But, I think the biggest fear when it comes to investing in YouTube is the measurement piece. It's so difficult to get a true understanding for YouTube's impact. And Google has been coming out with more and more different reports that help us be able to actually directly tie the revenue to the YouTube campaign and whatnot, or demand gen campaign, whatever setup you're doing. But really, circling back to all of this, paid can be very challenging to attribute back to and drive that value and actually have the proof of concept. And that's where, an agency comes into the mix, because YouTube is not like paid search. You're not hitting people when they're actively typing in. You're hitting them when they're on, watching cat videos on the internet, right? That's probably what I'm doing. And then you're getting in front of that individual, right? So you're going to need to expect longer payoff times, right? I usually even tell people run YouTube for 30 days to 90 days, YouTube ads, before you even touch anything or change anything. Let it build some time and momentum, and see how it's impacting your brand. If you think about how complex the purchasing journey has become, most on average, people are taking anywhere from, 4 to 9 steps before actually making a purchasing decision. And YouTube is meant to A, be a discovery tool, and then B, push them down that purchasing journey. And hold their hand through it and make sure that they remember you throughout, right? So, and again, this all comes back to the fact that evaluating YouTube under the right lens is so crucial. But YouTube can be a huge arm in shortening that purchasing decision window and making sure that you are actually a part of that decision. I always tell my clients, if you're not there during the research phase, you're not going to be there during their purchasing phase or their decision-making phase. And that's really what YouTube boils down to.
Good answer. So again, my takeaway from what you're saying though is that if you're just relying on organic, that seems like a pretty big mountain to climb to get. Right. I mean, unless you are doing something, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, unless you're doing something really controversial, really out there, or, like a Mr. Beast, kind of thing, if you're just a business and you've got your videos, I mean, even the people that come up with the most creative and organic, fun YouTube videos, it's still, just because you build it, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to come.
100%.
Is that a fair statement?
Yeah. And I mean, if you think about it, it's the same thing with any advertising channel. Like, you wouldn't build a Meta or an Instagram page and just expect everybody to find you, It's the same thing on YouTube. And the cool thing about YouTube, YouTube is more trustworthy for consumers. Actually, I believe, let me see, my research said, I think the quote that I had was, viewers rated YouTube as 16% more trustworthy, credible, and honest than ads on other video media platforms. And YouTube is also a channel that not only has very similar, if not more volume than some Meta, it's actually ranked higher in monthly average users than Instagram, but it keeps people on the platform much longer. So the opportunity to get in front of folks and also get in front of them when they're researching. People go to YouTube, when they've discovered a brand and they want to, if they might see your ad on YouTube and then they want to go to your channel to discover more. It's really, again, don't neglect one piece of your advertising funnel. You're not just going to be able to only dump money into YouTube ads without also building some time into your organic. And it's the same thing across all marketing channels here. It's all about making sure you're there no matter where the consumer is at.
Good. So, let's get back to my specific example. Say I did, we do a webinar and it's on we're using one of our CRM products that we sell.
Mhm.
So it's product XYZ. And maybe we're talking about the webinars content it's for small business owners, and it's about how to create reports in this CRM product.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which a lot of people are interested in, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I want to get that, in front of as many eyeballs as possible. I want to drive people to not only view it, but maybe even comment or engage with it.
Yeah.
I want people to subscribe to my channel. So what would you recommend that I do? I've completed the video. You can assume that it's a good quality video,
Yeah.
and I don't want to understate that. That's super important,
Mhm.
So it's done, and then I post it. It's got 3 views on it
Mhm.
after a week, So I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I want to get it out to more people so that, more people will watch it. What would you do? What would you recommend?
I would probably do a couple things. So if we had a shorter form, to have that be the video, as opposed to having a long form video. I have seen long form do okay in ads, but
Mhm.
Trying to make sure that people are goldfish brains on YouTube. So trying to, keep them focused.
How short is short?
Oh,
Like how?
very short. I mean, I see people drop off in 8 seconds. I mean, 8 seconds. People are going to lose interest in 8 seconds or less. So
Yep.
having a very strong hook, having a video edit that is your webinar, but just a little bit more tailored to an ad. So then from an audience perspective, right now, I would start with 2 different things. One, lookalikes. That's a very powerful way to go after folks that look like people that have either maybe engaged with your channel for a long time. Like, so we could say, hey, these are my subscribers. Go after people who look like my subscribers. Or these are people who have watched, 30 seconds or more of my webinars. Go after people who look like this. Or
so we can tell our YouTube advertising manager to do this, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And you could even do a lookalike audience from past purchasers or past leads. Like, hey, these are people who actually have reached out to me and have moved forward as a lead, right?
I would need to upload data to YouTube to do that. Is that correct?
Yes, a customer match list. So it would just be, an Excel sheet of these people, and it's not going after those people. It's still going to respect those people's privacy. It's just about a signal to build the audience. So Google can take a look at this pool of people, understand the behaviors that they took, the actions that we are trying to replicate with this lookalike, and go after other folks who are likely to look like these groups of people. So that's a very powerful way of doing some prospecting, but being very specific. Now, Gene, it sounds like you're in a very niche industry. So you're probably not going to go onto Google and find an in-market or affinity audience that's pre-built for you. That's like CRM, people who are interested in CRMs. You might find one, but it's pretty specific. So, and I've worked with businesses that are very hyper specific and still invest on YouTube. And my favorite approach for that, on top of lookalikes, is adding in custom intent audiences. You can build these from keywords, from URLs. So those could be like competitor URLs, people who do something similar to you, or even apps. I use that probably the least. My favorite's the keyword approach. So if you're, targeting a group of keywords on paid search, for example, that drives the majority of your non-branded traffic, I would build a list from those keywords and basically say, go find people who are either searching for these keywords or who are likely to search for keywords like this.
Okay. And when that means that if you're using that and you're telling Google to go out or YouTube to go out and find those people, when they're searching for those keywords, your video has a shot of showing up in their search results, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and you can target it a couple of different ways. I won't get too in the weeds, but you can target it by people who are actively searching for those keywords, or who are, look like people who are typing in similar searches like that. So it's a little technical with the setup, but similar situation. Yeah. You're going to get in front of those people based on, what they're doing on the internet, or, the signals that they've been providing to Google.
Okay. That's good. What is the length of time? You mentioned that people really do have very short attention spans.
Yeah.
So does that mean that you would advise your clients or companies not to post longer form videos? And, do you have any recommendations as to what sort of like length or duration your videos should be taking for a company video?
Yeah. Length. Google doesn't care, or YouTube, I should say. YouTube's not going to care about length. YouTube cares about is this video getting the click-through rate, right? Is it getting the clicks? Is it getting the engagement? And is it also increasing the overall user's session duration, not just on your video, but on YouTube in general? So if it's checking all those boxes, that's how Google prioritizes your video. Now, when it comes to ads, it's a little different. You're entering into an auction environment. So I would say experiment with your audience, because I have worked with brands who have run long form content in their ads and it's been very successful, but they have a very specific approach. I would test with creative formulas, and lengths with every audience, because you might want to say someone who's further down the line is going to get more UGC content or a shorter form content, because they're probably already in the know of what your brand is and they might be, closer to making a buying decision, versus someone who might be more upper funnel. You might want longer form content that's more in the weeds and explaining the brand, right? So it really comes down to experimenting and giving your creatives enough time to play and tell you with the data what is resonating with your audience.
Do you recommend that your clients run multiple campaigns at the same time?
I would. Yeah. I mean, I personally, I think that YouTube is a constant testing field. I don't think YouTube has ever done testing. So if you're trying to scale your brand in more than just one audience type in one area, experiment and experiment across all those audiences. Play and figure out what resonates the best.
Okay. There are a lot of bots on YouTube. So, and you might, get 1,000 views on a video. And then when you start looking into who's, viewing it, it's, it's just their bots that are looking at it, or they could be viewed by people that are really not part of your audience at all. They're from, other parts of the world or, whatever. How do you limit that stuff?
Yeah. Thankfully, Google, when you set up your either YouTube campaign or demand gen campaign, if you're telling it to go after a specific type of conversion or engagement style, right? That's a great way of how you can eliminate wasted traffic. And that's also where your agency comes in, or whoever is managing your YouTube campaigns, right? They're supposed to be there to look at where your ads are showing up. For example, mobile apps is a very common placement type for ads to show. And let me tell you, mobile app placements are just pretty terrible, because I don't know about you, if you play games on your phone or something like that. I don't either. But when you enter into an app and you accidentally click on an ad, I can't tell you how many times I've done that. Very, very big area of wasted spend. And that's where an expert would come in and say, hey, this is where your ads are wasting dollars, right? And continue to refine those out as much as possible.
Right. Yeah. Cause that happens to me, all the time. Yeah. So Carly, we've talked about getting views on these videos. What about subscribers to a YouTube channel? I mean, that's the real value there. And by the way, we have a few thousand subscribers on a YouTube channel, for my business. I just want to make sure, first of all, that I clarify that I don't know really who these people are. Like, I don't have their contact information. I just know their YouTube, their ID on YouTube. So I can't really market to them, can I? I mean, they're just subscribers to my channel. I mean, my hope is that if they subscribe, they have interest in my content. And if they have interest in my content, maybe they'll click through on something, when I, give a URL on a video, right? I mean, that's the most I can expect, correct?
You can. So if somebody is watching your YouTube ad, you want to get them to actually subscribe from there, you can remarket to them. You can say, I want to remarket to these people who have watched this video, and they are not necessarily subscribers. You can signal to Google, exclude subscribers. And then you can, push a different piece of content towards them. If they've seen a specific video of yours, and then you want to encourage more action, maybe show them another video that's saying, hey, I'm Jean. I post content every, Thursday or whatever that is. Come back and subscribe and see some of my other content. That's the kind of action, if you want to grow your YouTube channel from a subscriber's perspective, to really have calls to action within your videos. And then also making sure that, again, as folks are moving down the funnel, they are getting different messages to keep encouraging them to go further down in their funnel, if that makes sense.
So what you're saying is that if I have, say we post a video of one of our webinars and it gets, I don't know, up, a couple thousand views on it, I can be telling, my marketing person, go back into YouTube campaigns, do a remarketing campaign, target the people that viewed this video and send them another video.
Yeah.
So that they're getting more, and we're specifically going out. Obviously, there's a cost to that. We'll talk about that in a minute. But we're going back to those people that viewed to get them to see another video and maybe even another. And so it's not just the initial campaign to get views.
Right.
There are additional campaigns that I could be running. Targeted the people that did view my videos to get them to subscribe to my channel.
Exactly.
Is that correct?
And even think about it, even beyond just the YouTube platform, right? Like you need to also consider your other channels. I think it's really a powerful approach to also remarket. For example, I do this very often. Remarket to people who have engaged or, liked my page on Meta. People are engaging with me on Facebook or Pinterest. You can create audiences to, again, really make sure that you are hitting those consumers no matter where they're at, because it's no longer just operating in Google Ads anymore. People are, touching across multiple ads and multiple platforms now.
Okay. We only have a couple minutes left, so let's talk about costs. Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to have you talk about costs about how you guys charge. But we'll talk about costs, because your costs are of value. You are the humans, the experts that are running these campaigns and advising your clients and creating the content, all of this stuff. So that's got a separate value and cost proposition on its own. As far as YouTube specifically, what can a business owner expect to be spending on ads to try and get, a couple thousand views on a video? I mean, thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars. What do you see out there?
YouTube is very inexpensive. It is. You can pay anywhere from 1 cent to maybe 5 cents per view. It's a unique channel in that regard. I usually recommend small businesses start small. Just start by allocating anywhere. And here's a great example. I had a client who was dabbling in YouTube and dabbling in it very unintentionally. And it was resulting over time, just continual shrinkage in it because we were looping it in with our paid search goals. Eventually, I told the client, hey, you need to commit to a specific spend baseline. I had him up his budget to $2,000 a month. I said, don't touch it. We're going to invest in $2,000 consistently. After doing that,
just his YouTube budget,
just
was $2,000
YouTube,
a month.
exactly.
Right. Okay.
And that was just a recommendation for that particular client.
Sure.
You can spend you can spend like $5 a day on YouTube. I don't recommend starting that small. I'd say probably start around $500 and hang out for a minute, see what it does for you. And after 3 months of doing that, the first 3 months, you can see it wasn't very consistent in the conversions directly coming from those YouTube campaigns. But over time, what we saw, the brand, the website grew, all of that. And then over time, we actually saw consistent conversions coming in directly on the YouTube campaign. So it does take time. And that's one of the biggest mistakes I see. Brands don't give it enough time and they evaluate it in the same lens as paid search. And it's not the same. And it should be treated as an entirely separate platform.
Well, Kari, this has been great information, and I really want to thank you very much for sharing it with us. I mean, I have a lot more questions on YouTube marketing, but maybe we can bring you back in the future and dig even deeper into this topic, as well as other areas of digital marketing. I think our audience are really into it, and would appreciate your advice. So I want to thank you very much for joining me.
And thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. And I mean, hey, any questions you or anyone else have on YouTube? I love talking about this stuff. As you can tell, I'm a yapper. So thank you for letting me yap at you today.
You got it. And we will have Carly's information in our show notes.
Do you have a topic or a guest that you would like to hear on Thrive? Please let us know. Visit payx.me/Thrive topics and send us your ideas or matters of interest. Also, if your business is looking to simplify your HR, payroll, benefits, or insurance services, see how Paychex can help. Visit the resource hub at paychex.com/works. That's WORX. Paychex can help manage those complexities while you focus on all the ways you want your business to thrive. I'm your host, Gene Marks, and thanks for joining us. Till next time, take care.
This podcast is property of Paychex Incorporated 2025, all rights reserved.